The scene in Liverpool was electric. Hundreds of thousands of devoted Liverpool fans had gathered, transforming the city into a vibrant sea of red. They were celebrating their team's magnificent Premier League title victory. This championship marked their record-tying 20th top-flight title, a moment of immense pride and jubilation for the entire community. The air itself seemed to buzz with excitement, filled with the sound of supporters' chants, joyful laughter, and the intermittent popping of celebratory fireworks. Red smoke billowed from flares, creating a dynamic and joyous canopy over the planned 10-mile parade route. The victorious players, waving from two open-top buses clearly emblazoned with the words "Ours Again," greeted the ecstatic crowds lining the streets. This day was meant to be a cherished memory, a moment of pure, unadulterated elation, especially after the necessarily subdued celebrations for their 2020 league win due to COVID-19 pandemic restrictions. The city was truly united, basking in the glory of shared success and sporting achievement. Suddenly, the harmonious symphony of celebration was brutally shattered by a terrifying and unexpected dissonance. As the parade was reportedly nearing its conclusion, a minivan appeared, seemingly from nowhere. It then breached the carefully managed barriers and plowed directly into the unsuspecting crowd of fans. The vehicle, which police later stated was driven by a 53-year-old British man, was reported by witnesses to be moving with horrifying and reckless speed. The festive atmosphere, charged with happiness only moments before, instantly curdled into one of utter disbelief, rapidly followed by widespread panic. What had been a moving river of red shirts, waving scarves, and smiling faces tragically became a scene of unfolding chaos, unimaginable fear, and sudden injury. The transition from joy to terror was brutally swift, leaving very little time for many of the fans to react or even fully comprehend the dreadful tragedy unfolding right before their eyes. The sounds of celebration were tragically replaced by screams of fear and the sickening, unforgettable thud of impact as the vehicle struck. The human cost of this sudden and violent act was undeniably significant and deeply heartbreaking for everyone involved. Official reports stated that more than 45 people were injured during the chaos that erupted. The once festive parade route rapidly became a scene of urgent medical intervention as emergency services scrambled to reach and treat the wounded. A total of 27 individuals required immediate transportation to nearby hospitals for the varied injuries they had sustained during the incident. Among those hospitalized, 2 people were reported to have suffered particularly serious injuries, their conditions demanding intensive medical care and attention. The immense joy of the hard-fought championship victory was cruelly and abruptly overshadowed by the pain and suffering inflicted upon innocent fans. These supporters had gathered peacefully, simply to celebrate their beloved team's success, their lives now forever changed by this senseless and shocking act. The sheer scale of the injuries tragically highlighted the brutal force of the impact. Tragically, and with particular poignancy, children were not spared from this horrific and terrifying incident. It was confirmed that at least 4 children were among the considerable number of injured. Their youthful exuberance and excitement at the parade turned in an instant into a terrifying and traumatic ordeal. The situation was particularly dire and distressing for 4 of the victims, a group which included 1 child who became perilously trapped underneath the heavy van after it came to a halt. Their rescue required the courageous, skilled, and swift intervention of firefighters who arrived promptly at the scene. These brave emergency responders had to employ specialist equipment to physically lift the heavy vehicle to free those individuals pinned beneath it. This was a desperate and challenging race against time in incredibly difficult circumstances. The image of a child trapped in such a terrifying situation underscores the profound and indiscriminate cruelty of the event, striking at the most vulnerable members of the gathered crowd. Emergency services, including police, paramedics, and fire crews, were reported to be on the scene with remarkable speed. They expertly navigated the crowded and inevitably chaotic environment to reach the injured as quickly as possible. These dedicated professionals worked tirelessly and cohesively to provide essential medical aid, and to manage the rapidly unfolding crisis situation effectively. In a particularly cruel twist of fate, even one of the very first responders to arrive, a paramedic who had reached the scene on a bicycle to offer immediate assistance, was reportedly struck by the van. Fortunately, it was later confirmed that this paramedic was not seriously injured in the collision. However, the incident served to highlight the indiscriminate and unpredictable nature of the danger posed by the vehicle. The highly coordinated and brave efforts of these emergency personnel were absolutely crucial in mitigating further harm and providing immediate, life-saving care to the many victims. The driver of the minivan, identified by police as a 53-year-old British man, was very quickly apprehended by officers at the scene of the incident. Police officers acted swiftly and decisively to detain him, thereby preventing any further potential harm to the public. Authorities later released a statement indicating that they currently believe the suspect acted alone in carrying out this devastating incident. Importantly, for community reassurance, the police also confirmed that the event was not, at this stage, being investigated as an act of terrorism. The suspect was subsequently identified by police as being white. While these initial details from law enforcement provided some measure of clarity regarding the circumstances, they did little to lessen the profound shock felt throughout the city, or to explain the possible motive behind such a destructive and appalling act against a crowd of joyful, celebrating individuals. This left a community deeply affected and grappling for answers. The joyous occasion, so eagerly anticipated and meticulously planned by the city and its residents, was irrevocably tainted by the tragic events. City Council leader Liam Robinson eloquently articulated the profound and pervasive sense of sorrow that quickly enveloped Liverpool in the aftermath. He stated with audible grief that the incident cast a very dark shadow over what had been a joyous day for the city. His carefully chosen words accurately captured the collective heartbreak of a community whose planned celebrations were so cruelly and violently interrupted. The extensive festivities, which were meant to be a significant source of civic pride, unity, and shared happiness, instead became an unexpected and sorrowful backdrop for a serious tragedy. Councillor Robinson's sentiment resonated deeply with many residents who had personally witnessed their city's palpable elation turn to utter anguish in a matter of mere shocking moments, the vibrant red of celebration now tragically tinged with an overwhelming sense of grief and loss. National leaders also moved quickly to express their shock at the events and to offer their heartfelt support to the people of Liverpool. Prime Minister Keir Starmer described the scenes that had unfolded in Liverpool as appalling and deeply distressing. He formally extended his thoughts and condolences to all those who had been affected, directly or indirectly, by the terrible events of the day. Furthermore, the Prime Minister specifically praised the considerable bravery demonstrated by the rescuers, the emergency services and ordinary members of the public who had rushed into the chaotic and dangerous scene to help the injured. He acknowledged their courage and selflessness in the face of such an unexpected and frightening danger. His public message strongly emphasized solidarity, stating with conviction, "Liverpool stands together, and the whole country stands with Liverpool." These powerful words aimed to provide some measure of comfort and to reinforce the important sense that Liverpool was not alone in its grief, receiving widespread support from across the entire nation during this incredibly difficult and trying time. Liverpool Football Club, the very institution whose triumph was the reason for the day's massive gathering, issued a formal statement expressing its profound shock and deep sadness at the tragic events. The club's primary thoughts were, first and foremost, with all the victims and their families, particularly those who were directly impacted by the horrific events that unfolded during their championship parade. The Premier League, which is the organizing body of the prestigious football competition Liverpool had just triumphantly won, quickly echoed these sentiments of sorrow and support. They too released an official statement conveying their distress at the news and offering their sincere condolences to everyone affected by the incident. These heartfelt messages, coming from the very heart of the football community, served to underscore the deep and personal impact of the tragedy on the sport itself, its dedicated players, and its loyal supporters, turning what should have been a pinnacle moment of collective triumph into one of shared sorrow and disbelief. As the city of Liverpool reeled from the immediate impact of the incident, police authorities launched extensive and detailed inquiries. Their aim is to meticulously determine the precise cause of the collision and the full circumstances surrounding it. Highly trained investigators are now working diligently to piece together the exact sequence of events leading up to the van entering the crowd. They are also attempting to understand the motivations, if any, that might lie behind the driver's inexplicable actions. In the interim, authorities strongly urge the public to exercise caution and to act with responsibility, specifically requesting that people refrain from engaging in unhelpful speculation about the incident online. They also made a compassionate plea for individuals not to share any distressing content or graphic images related to the tragedy. This was requested to protect the dignity of the victims and to avoid causing any further unnecessary distress to the already grieving community. This important call for restraint aimed to allow the official investigation to proceed unimpeded and to foster a supportive and respectful environment for all those affected. This tragic and violent end to the 2025 Premier League celebration stood in stark and painful contrast to Liverpool's more recent title win. The last time the esteemed club had managed to secure the coveted league title was back in 2020. At that time, the entire world was in the grip of the severe COVID-19 pandemic. Strict public health restrictions, which were necessarily in place to combat the spread of the virus, meant that any large-scale public gatherings were completely impossible. Consequently, the celebrations for that truly historic and long-awaited victory were significantly muted. They were devoid of the massive, joyous street parades and the vibrant, communal expressions of joy that typically accompany such a momentous sporting achievement for the city. Therefore, many fans had been eagerly and patiently awaiting this 2025 parade as a chance to finally celebrate properly and without restriction, making the tragic turn of events even more poignant and utterly devastating for a fan base that had waited so long for this specific moment of unrestrained, collective jubilation. For many people in Liverpool, this deeply shocking incident, though different in its specific nature, inevitably and sadly stirred painful memories of other past tragedies that have affected the city. The Hillsborough disaster, which occurred 36 years prior to this event, remains an indelible and painful scar on the city's collective consciousness and soul. In that terrible tragedy, 97 loyal Liverpool fans tragically lost their lives as a result of a fatal crush in the stadium during an FA Cup semi-final match being held in Sheffield. The incredibly long and arduous fight for justice that followed, and the enduring, profound grief stemming from the Hillsborough disaster, have significantly shaped the city's unique character. These experiences have fostered a deep and abiding sense of community resilience, empathy, and solidarity among its people. While the circumstances of this van incident are clearly distinct from Hillsborough, the raw experience of sudden, unexpected loss occurring at a football-related event resonates very deeply within the collective memory of Liverpool and its worldwide legion of supporters. The swift clarification from the authorities that this particular incident was not being treated as an act of terrorism, coupled with their strong appeal against online speculation, also comes against a relevant backdrop of recent societal experiences with the damaging effects of misinformation. The Associated Press news article, which provided much of the initial information about this event, also referenced a separate and unrelated incident that occurred in the nearby town of Southport during the previous summer. In that case, a teenager was responsible for killing 3 girls in a shocking stabbing rampage. Widespread misinformation about the suspect in that case, who was falsely and maliciously identified online as being an asylum seeker, unfortunately and regrettably led to serious rioting and public disorder. This previous event clearly highlights the potential dangers of unverified information spreading rapidly and uncontrollably, especially during highly emotionally charged events. It underscores the critical importance of responsible public discourse and a collective reliance on official, verified sources for information to prevent further societal harm and division. In the face of this truly appalling and tragic event, the renowned and indomitable spirit of Liverpool has once again begun to shine through the darkness. The city, which is well known across the globe for its remarkable resilience and its exceptionally strong community bonds, has started to come together in solidarity and mutual support. As Prime Minister Keir Starmer rightly observed, Liverpool stands together. This powerful sentiment is clearly echoed in the widespread outpouring of public support for the victims and their grieving families. It is also evident in the heartfelt praise being directed towards the brave emergency services personnel who responded so effectively. While the dark shadow of this tragedy will undoubtedly linger for a considerable time, the compassionate and unified response from both the public and officials alike speaks volumes about a shared determination not to be defined by this act of violence. The primary focus for the city now understandably shifts towards healing, providing unwavering support to all those affected, and working together to ensure that such a joyous occasion never again turns so tragically and unexpectedly sour.